Hello, retro fans. It's been a while that I have streamed something, and I already feel that I'm kind of lacking some experience. And as usual, the exact moment I was hitting start streaming, OBS told me that there's a problem with my YouTube connection, and all I had to disconnect and reconnect my account, and then fortunately it went back to working mode. Hopefully, that's just some sort of assumption. So let me check whether this is really doing something or. Yeah, it looks like I'm online. Looks like I'm streaming. Ah, I can hear myself, so I think things are working fine right now. And let me get stuff a little bit sorted here. And then I keep hitting the wrong buttons. Default view. Okay, so yeah, as the title suggests. Oops. Okay, I think now I'm set. Hopefully. Okay. Yeah. So as the title suggests, I want to have a calm and chill game session just to end up the week. Has been quite a busy week, a lot of things to do at work, and I'm trying to get back into my, let's say, sports, fitness, training rhythm after I had to learn that the COVID-19 infection I had back in April really takes a little bit longer than expected to get rid of it. Even if I felt quite good after a week already and started to return to my sport, I really had to learn that I'm lacking a lot of power, a lot of fitness, and I really had to step back a huge amount and had to start from, almost scratch to build up my aerobic system. And yeah, that was indeed very, very unexpected. And all those things like my relocation to this new flat and doing all the stuff here coming together, and it keeps me busy more than I thought. And yep, so I'm really trying to come back to some sort of a regular rhythm, and I'm trying to do some streaming as well as producing new episodes. And Ember Moon, hey, thanks for joining. You're probably the first participant today here, or the first visitor. And yeah, so, and as the title suggests, I want to play some 16-bit-ish looking games on the NES. And this whole topic is heavily inspired by a YouTube channel called Sharopolis. And he dives into several systems like, for example, the NES or the C64 or the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and picks out games that technically some sort of impossible for this specific system. And I really have to admit, I was very impressed by some of his discoveries, so to say. and I started to look after those games as well. I mean, using the Analog NT Mini provides the well, possibility to run games from an SD card, and therefore it is quite easy to check those games. But on the other hand, if I really like a game and I'm using a console like the NES, Famicom, Analog NT Mini, I want to use the game as a cartridge version as well. I mean, I'm a huge fan of cartridge games on the C64 already, and it would be kind of strange to do the opposite thing on a cartridge only system like the NES. And therefore, I started to try to get some of my favorite games for the NES as original release, as a cartridge release, or at least as a replica. Something about this a little bit later, and to play them as a real cartridge game. Because what I've learned is, especially today in this sort of online, everything is available at every time, every moment in time. Technology, whatever situation, I tend to jump into a game, play it for 5 or 10 minutes, and then I think, well, no, I want to play something else, and then I jump out of it. And if I think back to the mid 80s when I started to have my first home computer experience, and then at the beginning of the 90s when I started to discover this so-called Western technology like the C64 and later on game consoles or something like this, the situation was very, very different. So if you just imagine the time having a tape recorder as the main source for data, then it took quite a while to load a game. And I think this loading time was some sort of helpful to appreciate the game you've had already loaded. And I can remember it must have been somewhere around the late 80s or something like this when I was visiting a friend of mine every now and then, and he was so lucky that he got an Atari. I think it was something Atari 400-ish, something like this. I can't remember it really. And we had to load games from tapes, and this often failed. So usually we started to load the game, then we went away, then we were cooking something to eat or something like this, or we were listening to music, came back to the computer just to learn that, well, the loading has failed, so we had to start over. And when I came back to the C64, which was about 7 to 8 years ago, I had some sort of a break of retro computing. Then one of the first things I was really interested in was to get some tape games. And well, I have to admit it is a little bit fiddling with all this tape deck data set called on the C64 on those tapes, and then I quickly went to Arduino based tape systems like Tabuino, for example, where you can load tape images to your C64 but without the loading errors. It takes the same amount of time, you have the same tape loader awesomeness you have on some of the C64 games, like having some music playing during the loading or having some nice image presented, something like this. And yep, so this was something I was really impressed. And then I started, as I said already, to collect some cartridges, because cartridge games were something I was really, really enjoying to play. And the same is actually applicable to the NES. And therefore I will try to cover as much original cartridge releases or some bootlegs today. And one of the first games I want to dive into is actually Gradius II. And that's actually a game where I was pretty sure when I have seen the first videos about the game that this isn't running on an NES. So I was just flipping through YouTube videos, some arcade, retro-ish gaming videos, something like this. And then I saw the gameplay of Gradius II. And indeed, it is a conversion that's not exclusively created for the NES or slash Famicom. But I was really blown away to learn that this is actually running on the NES. And it wasn't so easy to get a copy of it because I think it is a Japanese only release. It has never been released in Europe, and therefore took quite a while to get this one. And I think I ordered it from Japan. I can't remember quite a while ago, a couple of years ago. But yeah, so. And well, as usual, I'm really terrible at games like this, but that isn't really preventing me from playing them. And well, hopefully, we're going to see a bit of progress here with this one. And let's have a start and see why I consider this as some sort of 16-bit-ish looking game. And today I'm going to use the Nintendo NES Advantage. That's some sort of the arcade controller built for the NES, and that's basically one of the reasons why I picked the analog mini, I think this way, because here I can connect this controller on the Famicom. Usually the controllers are hardwired, you can't change them, and therefore it's a little bit tricky to play with a controller like this without modding the Famicom. And yeah, that's for this one. And I'm still looking for the new Famicom, but this has, I think, never been released to Europe as well, and they are quite hard to find for, well, a reasonable price. I mean, you can straight order them from Japan, but they are a bit pricey, and you have to pay the shipping and the custom fee for this as well. So this is a project where I really have to find a good reason to do this. And yeah, anyway, so let's try to have some progress here on this game. And I really will take a couple of turns until I get used to it. And as you can see, I died already. So Gradius 1 and Gradius 2 has a very, very unforgiving collision detection, so there is no chance to slip through. If you're really just close to the things you shouldn't hit, then you're actually dead already. And I just have to figure out how I have to select the options. Was it with select? Missile? Let's see. Double? Select? B? Yeah, B. Okay. I should have paid some attention to the screen. Yeah, and as I have mentioned, I'm heavily inspired by the videos by Sharopolis, and he digs into the details how those games are actually working on the NES and what has been actually what has been done in order to get them running. And you may have heard of the so-called mapper chips or mapper ICs or expansion ICs on the NES slash Famicom. And this is a very interesting concept because, well, I probably never going to finish the first level today if I keep talking like this and not paying that much attention to the game. But yeah, coming back to these mappers and enhancement ICs, and this is a very interesting concept of the NES, that you can add additional functionality by adding certain ICs to the cartridge. And some games are using this just to enhance, let's say, the memory, the ROM available, and still trying to figure out, okay. Or expanding the RAM of the system, and some ICs are really providing additional functionality, like for example a scanline counter. That was, well, sort of close. And all those things are used to do things on the NES which were usually without any modification impossible. And Gradius and Gradius II are using this quite heavily to switch the tile sets. The NES is a tile set based system, so what we can see is a mix of, well, characters, so custom characters, and sprites actually. And the NES has a certain amount of memory to store these tile sets, and this is actually limited by default. But using this sort of mapper and additional memory on the cartridge, it makes possible to use more tiles than originally intended. And Gradius is using this quite heavily to create this some sort of unique gaming experience. And one special feature about Gradius II is that you can scroll the screen in actually 2 dimensions, so it's not just scrolling from the left to the right. Nope, it is scrolling up and down as well. And if you just look at very early NES games, then you may have recognized that quite often they just scroll in one direction. And some of the early cartridges were really hardwired to scroll in one direction, so it was either horizontally or vertically. And just later versions made it possible to scroll in 2 directions at the very same time. And this, is it called protuberances scene. This is so amazing to see this. And I thought it is actually impossible to see this on the C64, but I have learned quite recently that it is indeed possible, and that there is a game utilizing this, but unfortunately I forgot the name. It is an R-type like game as well. It looks a little bit like Nemesis or Cartacus here in Europe. And there's a quite similar scene like this one as well. So, oops, I jumped out of it. So, well, let's try it again. At least we made it to the suns. That's something I'm quite impressed. So, and yeah. Those games are a lot about memorizing patterns and getting your muscle memory trained so that you do not have to think about that stuff all too much, but knowing instinctively what you have to do. And since I have to admit, most of the time I'm playing games just when I stream, so it's really something rare, and therefore I'm really lacking some sort of experience. So I think we really need to get some power-ups, and I really have to keep them. But actually not this way. So I hope the sound is okay. If it is too loud or too dim, just feel free to express yourself. I have it very, very low here on my side so that it's not going to interfere with my microphone. I was trying to get my headphones working, but I had to recognize that my setup is a little bit different to what I have used in the past. Oh, come on, that was mean. And I couldn't get them to work without delay, and it is a little bit strange to listen to a game sound that is delayed by a fraction of a second or something like this. Oh, that's that's cool. Haven't seen that for a while. That looks a bit of effective, I would say. Oh. I think I picked the wrong power configuration, because now I think we do not have a shield. Or was the shield a question mark? Okay, game over. I think there's a bit more time required to figure out. Ah, I thought I can slip through it, but well, was perhaps a bit too ambitious. Come on, that... Yeah, and beside being... Come on. Impressive on the graphic side. I think it has a very nice soundtrack as well, which I some sort of enjoy as well. And today I was looking for a so-called NSF player, which is actually an audio player for Nintendo Entertainment System, Famicom, Mish audio files, and these are actually no MP3s or something like this, which people are using nowadays. It is really the raw data format, which is actually included somewhere in the game and tells the CPU what kind of sound it has to produce. So in comparison to the C64, the NES has no dedicated sound chip. So everything we hear is actually done by the CPU itself. But some of the cartridges are using additional sound creating devices, and this sound is actually mixed into the normal audio channel of the system. The NES technically is not capable of doing so, although being quite similar to should have remembered it. Very equal to the Famicom, but it is lacking this certain connection to get the audio from the cartridge to the console, and therefore NES cartridges are not using this option. So if you want to have additional sound effects, even if it's just some FM synthesis or just some additional waveform generators, then this is something available on the Famicom only. Got burned by the sun. I think I missed selecting an option, so I went through the whole circle. A lot of effort picking up all those items, and then I haven't used them at all, so that's a bit pity. So let's try to remember it. Oh, it's coming from behind. That's mean. Let's see if we can slip through. Keeps chasing me. And that's another interesting thing, that the NES is capable of displaying a certain amount of hardware sprites at the very same time, but most of the games are simply exceeding this. And interesting fact is that, well, I missed that protuberance. I didn't miss it, I just hit it, I just forgot it, so to say. You can actually just tell the system to draw a certain amount of sprites above this technical limit, and the PPU is actually just handling this request by trying to sort of draw the sprites as early as possible. And on the original system, this is clearly visible because you have some sprite flickering. And here on the NT Mini, you have the option to disable. I forgot to select my power up to, well, some sort of fix this, and therefore there is less sprite flickering compared to an original system. I think double is the worst option to pick. Okay. I wasn't paying that much attention to it, I have to admit. And I hit the sun again. I really wonder whether I make it to the end of this level. So that's probably going to be something I'd like to achieve today. But it's maybe a little bit too ambitious, but we'll see. Ah! Really bad thing to ignore the dragons. They keep chasing you, and then it's getting quite busy on the screen. So, let's see. this is going to work. Oh! I haven't expected to survive this, but well, the next one killed me. Okay. Hello, Chiaru. I hope I pronounced this some sort of correct. Thanks for joining. Has been some sort of spontaneous idea. Thought, well, let's do a Famicom Friday. I haven't done this for quite a while. Can select the laser twice. That's interesting. Hopefully it is twice as efficient as before. I think we need to go for the option. Oh. I made it through the suns. Well, actually, not completely, because the tricky part is still coming. The interesting thing is, damn it, the first time you can't see where they are coming. Because in the background you can still see the stars, but after the first eruption the stars are missing, and therefore you can kind of guess where they are going to appear. But well, if you don't make it till then, it is not important at all. Okay, well, let's I think one last attempt, or second to last attempt, something like this. I really should try the question mark. I think it is the shield. It is, okay. So, maybe that's going to be a little bit helpful. Come a little bit further now, or to go a little bit further. Not saying that this is going to solve all of my problems. I couldn't move to the left as much as I thought. The idea was really to get behind the dragon and trying to get rid of it, but yeah, that hasn't worked, obviously. Yeah, the music is an interesting mix of being some sort of arcade-ish paced, but still some sort of calmy or relaxed. Oh, I lost my shield. Okay. So. Really have to go through here. Let's see if we can manage this. Ah! I haven't expected that little sun coming out of this, so... I was almost celebrating that I got through it, but well, okay. Last attempt, I promise. Ah! Oh, I was trying to select speed as an option, but accidentally picked the missiles, which are pretty useless in open space. The music of the C64 is beautiful, but sometimes after a while too nagging. I'm a little bit lost, I have to admit. What exactly are you referring to? Actually, we are playing NES games or Famicom games. Oh. Not very successfully, I have to admit, but anyway. Ah. I somehow selected the missile again. Don't know how. Can't even say why, because that wasn't planned. So, now we got a lot of options. Let's see if we can make it a bit further now. Ah, not low enough. Okay, so I promised. Anyway, good game. It's hard to explain. So, okay, then let's move on to the next one. And actually, let's try to mix this a little bit. So we had a lot of horizontal scrolling now, a lot of shooting. And I think I'm going to move on to another game, which is actually not an Famicom game. It is actually an NES game. But I think that's going to be okay. Just recognize that I forgot my thank you banner. And this is going to be Gym, Power, and the Lost Dimension. And this is actually a, well, I think a recreation of an original game that was released, I think, on the Amiga and on the SNES. I'm actually not sure right now. May have spent some time researching it. And I think it was a crowdfunding project, which I have supported, well, quite a while ago already. And the interesting thing is that this looks so amazing in terms of graphics and colors that when I've seen the first promotion videos or commercials, trailers, whatsoever, I was really in doubt that this is going to be possible on the NES. But well, they managed it, and it is an amazing game. And the interesting thing is that on the Amiga, and I think it was the SNES, I'm actually really not sure. So if you guys are knowing this, then feel free to post it in the chat. It is incredible difficult on the Amiga, and they have reduced this difficulty level on this release for the NES, and it is actually kind of playable. So a couple of months ago, I think it's about more than a year or so, I was able to get, I think, to level 3 or something like this without practicing it too much. But well, it is another type of games where I'm really not good at. So actually, let's see what we can do. And as you can see on the title screen already, we have a very colorful logo, and we have this amazing parallax scrolling going on. And this is actually the, let me go with easy. the whole, well, set for the game. And what I really love is this very fluid animation of the character, and he's breathing, and while he's walking, and just have to figure out how we can jump. Okay, we may have to disable turbo option. Okay, we got a powerful shot as well. And the scrolling itself is so smooth, it is really, and fast, it is really amazing. And yep, I missed that one. But I think it is manageable. Maybe not this way. I'm a bit surprised that they move in the same rhythm, but yeah. I didn't get it. Yeah, the color palette is really amazing. They have done an incredible job of getting all the possible colors squeezed into this without creating some sort of a dull look or something like this. So now they move in a different pattern, so to say, and this should make it a little bit easier to cut to the other platform. I'm still not convinced whether I... Or maybe there's a problem with the collision detection. Looks like I can't get this one. Ah, come on. Oops. Oh, hello, probably. Ah, missed that one. Ah, again. Okay, let's just try and outrun it. Another question mark. Are we going to get this time? Nope. Am I supposed to shoot at it or? Yep, okay. Now I understand. But I think can't get it again. Nope. Okay, so for the next one we are actually aware what we have to do. Oh. Ah, I see. Oh, wrong direction. I think we need to hit head. Probably. Oh, it's going to be close. Yep, it is flashing. Ah, that's really very reluctant. Ah, come on. My mistake. I'm surprised I'm still alive. That's really... Ah, now we made it. Ah. Continue. Yeah, indeed. Indeed. we have a chance to get back to this one. Ah yeah, I think this way. So I think we can ignore that white one over there. But we have to pay attention to the deadly water drops coming from the ceiling. Oh, I was just talking about. Ah, not patient enough. Okay. Ah. So I think the next boss is coming, and this one is a little bit more aggressive than the former ones. Oh. But I made it! Well, surprise, surprise. Ah, okay, that was not really very well planned. But fortunately, we still have a chance to continue. Oh, couldn't remember that it disappeared. Ah, those busy darts. Okay. And more darts. Or spikes. And this is going to disappear. And I'm probably going to die here. Well, let's skip this one. It's probably just a power up for energy. We're very likely to lose more energy than we get by picking it up. So, it isn't running too well right now. Hi Adam, thanks for joining. How was your week? was not sure. Could I? No, I think we have to do. Ah, nope. It wasn't working. And we start from the beginning, indeed. Not of the game, but of the level. So, could be worse. Oh, missed it. So, this one was disappearing, so we have to time this with the barrels. It just worked a bit better now. And here I think I hit the ceiling and I can't jump over right now. So I have to go through this path. Oh! That was more luck than skill, I think. And I think by dropping down, shooting that thing... You got it. Yep. Finished work, so time to chill and check in. Yeah. So I'm back from work too. Did some grocery shopping for the weekend before temperatures are going crazy at all. Expecting 36 to 38 degrees Celsius over the weekend here in Germany, in my part. So it's actually nothing where you plan a lot of action. I will try to get some stuff done in the morning when it is still not as hot as it is going to be. Not talking about cold. And then probably going to chill most of the weekend. And next week, starting on Monday, temperatures are supposed to return to normal. So let's hope if this is going to end up like this. Ah, I thought I can jump over it completely. So it went quite well up to here, but already lost a couple of power points. Ah, that was mean. I thought this one is some sort of staying there and the darts coming. From the very beginning. Okay, let's see. Probably the last attempt. We can't distinguish whether the platform is going to stay or to disappear. So that's actually just something you have to learn. Managed to get this one. Ah! Released the button too early. That is... waste of energy. So let's just ignore that guy. It's not important. Can't remember how I did this. Well, I just know running through isn't working. Okay, that was not too bad. Ah, but this was really bad. And you're slowly running out of energy. So, very, very doubtful they made that much progress. At least this has worked a bit. And as we've learned, this one is going to disappear, but the other one not. So I may have to jump down when the other one is going down, so that I have a chance to jump over. Right like this. And yeah, it has worked. And it did. Okay. I was thinking, was there something? And yeah, the dot. Do we have endless continues here in this game? I'm actually forgot if this is going to have an end or we can keep doing so until we managed to get to the end of the game. That's probably a bit too late, yeah, but it has worked, okay. Yep, it's been a warm day here, up in the 30s, similar plans, bit of rest and a few chores to sort. Nice move, tricky timing needed. Yeah, indeed. It is, I think, beginner friendly, so for a noob like me, it is still playable, but yeah. It has some challenges here and there. Oh, this time I missed it. For games like this, I really miss something like a freezer cartridge or something like this, so that you can simply save your game state. That's the nice thing about... Oh! How I missed that one up. About using emulators. Simply have your game state safe, and then you can continue from this point. And I really wonder why they never built this into the analog devices, even if I'm using this so-called, what's it called, jailbreak firmware or something like this, which comes with a lot of new features, but there's no freeze function. And interestingly, Jim Power is using a very unique mapper. Like I have mentioned for the Gradius II game, it is using some sort of an enhancement IC, and the NT-Mini is actually able to rip ROM images from cartridges, but for this you have to have the correct mapper. same thing over and over again. Ah, come on. One last attempt. I promise. And this specific mapper is actually missing. So it's not included in the library of mappers available for creating ROM dumps. And therefore I can't create a ROM file out of it and move it to an emulator. And interestingly, I haven't found a working ROM for it. And that's a bit sad because, as I said, I think it was a crowdfunding project, whether Indiegogo or Kickstarter. And usually if you buy games this way or support development of games like this, then you get a digital version as well, but not for this one. So there is actually no digital version available. Of course, having this on the emulator would be more than comfortable, because this would provide a chance to train later levels. I have a chance to really get through it sometimes. I mean, back in the days, as a little kid, having just 1 or 2 games to play and enough time to do so, it wouldn't be so hard, but having your daily duties, your work and all that stuff, it is actually really, really difficult to spend so much time required to actually master a game like this. And is this going to disappear? I can. Probably the moving ones not, but just the static ones. Okay, that's probably something I can try to keep in mind. And if I'm, for example, traveling, I have an NES emulator on my tablet and I'm using a Bluetooth NES controller, and therefore I'm able to... same mistake again. I can play games in a NES style even if I'm not at home, so to say. How did I miss that one? So I didn't made it to the dot, and as I promised, that has been my last attempt for gym power. Completion 12%. Okay. So, some way to go. And well, yeah, let's keep mixing genres. And let's move on to the next one. And this is actually one I'm really looking forward to. You may have seen me posting this on Twitter already. Crisis Force for the NES. Or for the Famicom, actually. Let me move to desk view, because that's really worth that whole thing. That is the wrong button. Here we go. And I was searching for this one for quite a long time, and this has never been released outside Japan. And I had a couple of attempts. I was really close to order it from Japan originally, but if you check eBay, you will see that this is indeed a little bit pricey. So usually they range between let's say $100 to $150 plus shipping plus custom fees, and then they are not. Then most of the time they are not boxed. And surprisingly, I have a search running on eBay, searching for certain things, and surprisingly, this one has shown up from a German seller as a boxed version for a quite okayish price, I have to say. And so I thought this is going to be the chance to get this one. And it is, well, you can see it has been opened a couple of times. And that's actually one of the big disadvantages of those packages, that they are really hard to open. So I'm probably going to leave it out of it. And the box itself, it's in quite decent condition. So except for the lid, it looks really good. And it comes with the manual and the cartridge itself. And yep, some explanation in Japanese only. So it'll take some time to translate all that stuff, but well, I did some Googling to get a rough understanding of the game itself. And yeah, let's see if it is working or if it is broken or something like this. The cartridge itself looks very, very good. So yep, let's see what's going to happen. And this is actually graphical wise absolute amazing. And it has a fantastic soundtrack as well. But I think it has it an attract mode? Let's wait for a couple of seconds. But I doubt so. I think it has no attract mode. It has some sort of an intro. Okay, then let's look at this one. 1990X. Okay. So this is already in the past. And this looks some sort of an invasion of a mighty hand or mighty arm. Stage 1. Okay, so it is doing anything on its own, so I don't have to do anything at all, just watching. So the first very big relief is the cartridge is working. That's very good. And I've seen this on this before mentioned Sharopolis channel as well, and he digged into some details how they have programmed the game, because it is using a couple of effects that aren't really possible on the NES, so they really had to really flex their muscles, their brain muscles, and use all the available skills to squeeze in some effects that are really, really tricky to do. And it is using an enhancement chip as well, and it is using additional memory as well. And they're using a so-called scanline timer, so that they really, that the program code or the CPU knows at which point the PPU is actually drawing something on the screen, on screen, and they swap. This is probably the most famous scene, this huge trench here, and this sort of 3D effects included into this section of the game. And they keep swapping the tiles in the background, and they really using some unique techniques to create this vertical parallax scrolling. And yep, as I said, it is really tricky and originally not available on the NES, so they really had to come up with a couple of new code ideas to get this implemented. So let's see whether we can have some progress on the game. I think I will switch to easy, I was going to say. So, well, let's see if we can have some progress here. I thought we have to see some opponents. It's actually a little bit empty, but no. Oh, they're coming. So the first level is rather easy, so it is not so tricky to get through it. It is getting a bit more challenging very soon. The nice thing here is, well, you can power up your ship, and if you get hit, you just lose the power up until you have no power up left, and then you're losing a life. And therefore, it is really, really playable. And here we have the first version of the trench, and we see how the enemy is approaching from the depth of it, and this is really some amazing effect. I was really impressed, as I've seen this the very first time. I couldn't believe it, and what I really love about it is that the whole game is this mix of different sprites, the colors, everything is really well used, and despite, let's say, the lower resolution, but at a very, well, let's say, quick glance, you could misjudge this some sort of a early Neo Geo game or something like this. Just to, well, open the window a little bit too wide maybe, but actually it is really coming close in my opinion, and it is really an outstanding game on the Famicom system. And as you can see, I've managed to go through the first level, which is compared to Gradius a huge success. But I think things are going to be way more difficult now. So we have quickly collect those power-ups. Yep, we have to go to this, let's call it angel state, because this white stuff on the screen is deadly, and it makes it very easy to go through this section in this transformation mode. But now it's done, and now we really have to survive on our own. And that's probably going to be a bit busy now. And I hit something that was absolutely avoidable. Oh, those blocks are really hard to see. Continue. Indeed, continue. And well, yeah, the game is available as a ROM file. So if you do some search on the internet, it's probably not going to be too hard to find it. And you can play this on your emulator or on your MiSTer or wherever you want this. So it's not really required to sell your children in order to get this game. But as I said at the very beginning, I'm a huge fan of cartridge games, and this has been on my list of games I really have to get. And fortunately, I have had a chance to do so. So now let's pay some attention to those nasty block-like shots, which are a little bit hard to detect. Oh, they're coming from behind. So it looks like the NES is really, or the Famicom is really busy here. We have a certain amount of slowdown. So there's really a lot of stuff going on the screen, huge sprites, and I died already again. Ah, I flew directly into this shot. So let's... I was going to say let's see whether we can avoid them as long as possible, but nope. I have a certain talent of really collecting them. Ah. I was close to say it is running quite well. Just to experience sudden death just a second later. Ah. It is really hard to get through this if you're not transform into this sort of angel state. So let's pay attention of getting these power-ups collected. Ah, missed them already. Ah. It looks like you need a certain pattern of going through this. And we have to collect those red looking gems. And if I shoot them, they turn into blue, and then they provide perhaps something else, but not what I'm looking for. That's probably something where I really have to do some research. And yeah, that's actually the end of the first attempt. So let's try to get into this menu and see if we can switch to easy. Difficulty, easy. Rest, whatever rest means. I have no idea. So the whole soundtrack is really nice to listen to as well. It is, well, very NES-ish, chip-ish, so to say. This is actually not utilizing any additional sound provided by the cartridge or something like this. But I think it has a very pumping rhythm and it has a very nice set of instrument, if we call it like this. And I really enjoyed it, so you can just look up at YouTube, for example, and then there are a couple of guys who have recorded this in sort of pseudo stereo and all that things, and yep, I was listening to it while doing some Microsoft Excel work today, and it was really helpful to get through certain parts of the project. So, it's really interesting if I'm a bit tired, like I'm today. I experienced some sort of dizziness while looking at this vertical scrolling all the time. Therefore, I think I have to keep mixing the jungles today. Otherwise, it's going to be a very motionful night, or whatever we want to call this. It's probably going to go on in my brain until tomorrow. I lost a lot of power-ups already, but well, I'm still alive. That's the good thing. Really so many interesting details here. Even these red balls, or whatever we call this, bubbles, they are designed in a way that they look so cool, so kind of 3D-ish. And if I compare this to, without blaming it at all, to the C64, some sprites are a bit dull, so to say, due to the limits of the color palette. It's really interesting that we have some sort of slowdowns here, so I'm not sure whether this is related to my auto fire. Maybe that's a bit too busy. Maybe I have to tone it down a bit. So now transfer back. Couple of power-ups on hand. Already lost them. Ah. That's really a tricky part. Transition to this part of the level here. I haven't figured out completely why I'm losing the power-ups so rapidly. So, well, I have to admit it's a little bit hard. If you get hit, you have this sort of metallic cling sound. And as I said, my sound is very low right now to avoid interference with the microphone. And therefore I can't hear if I'm going to, or if I has been hit, so to say. It's some sort of a past thing. So my learning curve is a little bit low, just to have some sort of an explanation. Beside being bad at games at all. But I was able to avoid a couple of shots already. But I haven't expected this. Okay. Oh, come on, that's mean. There's not even space for it. And now he's coming up with something new. Ah, come on. Just die. Let me move on. Do me a favor. Ah, here we go. I know, it just has turned into something else. Ah. Now it's chasing me. Ah, here we go. Whee! Nice transition screen as well. I really love it. And it just moves on to the next stage. That's so amazing. And now we got the next huge trench. Not sure whether I'm allowed to hit these land portions. Nope. It's not good. Okay. Let's try avoid them. Oh, that's really tricky. Ah! Ooh. So, with an arcade stick or arcade controller, well, except if you have no space to go at all, I have to say it plays much better than with the controller. I've played the game a couple of times on the emulator using this before mentioned, we can shoot backwards as well, yep. Bluetooth controller. And with this cross, oh. Ooh, continue. Yep. It is a bit hard to play, I have to say. But with this NES Advantage, it is really nice. So they have built a pretty good thing. It's making some squeaking noise, but well, that's probably better than click click click. I'm not a fan of micro switches. Are they called like this? I think so. I really don't like the noise. So once again, Really have to remember that. Don't get trapped into... Oh! Something happened. Oh, I sort of disappeared. Interesting. So with the B button you can switch between, well, different whatever fire modes and something like this. And it even looks like, oh, that's an awesome part. Look at how those little things crawling up and down the trench. That's amazing. Don't even know where I have to look at first. Ah, got hit by it. So. Oh! Did it again. What is? Oh. Can I switch? Ah, I have to use my control stick as well to switch between certain whatever states of my ship. Now I got trapped, but well, made it. Some sort of. Dump! Not this time. Oh, come on. The other ones were so easy. Oh, it's slowing down drastically. That's often not a good sign. And I'm afraid something is going on. Probably not going to like it that much. Come on, I'm lost. What's that? Ah, some sort of a teleporter. Okay. Ah, still trying to figure out how to transform my ship. Ah, come on. Ah, continue. Well, yeah, let's Oh, start from the beginning. Oh, yeah, indeed. Why not? So, but overall, I really have to admit, it is very, very beginner friendly, or noob friendly, or friendly for guys who really have no clue how to play games like this. Ah. And again, same position. Well, transforming your ship and getting it to fire in different directions, adding a additional, well, an additional complexity to the game, I was going to say. Ah, now I'm getting closer to understand how this is going to work. So I have to pull back my control stick, and then I hit B. Then I can transform my ship until I get hit by something which I haven't seen coming. Ah, come on. I have no idea where I have to go. Ah. Looks like you really have to kind of remember the pattern of this whole level. Otherwise it's going to be very tricky. I collected so many power-ups and I lost them already. Just because I hit those solid sections, or how are we going to call this? And the same again, the same. Really have to remember to go to the very right to avoid getting trapped. I'm still so amazed how they crawl up and down this trench that I really forget that they're going to shoot at me. Now I went too far to the left. And out of bounds, so to say. So I think for the next Famicom Friday I have to play something that's not as stressful as this one. And I think at one occasion I started to play Mario Golf. And what's our reason? Can't remember whether I have done this for more than 10 minutes or so. But that sounds something I can do on a Friday night. That's not too stressful. And the end! Finally! I have to admit that's some sort of a relief. It is really a pretty busy game. And actually, the next one I had planned to play is even more busy. So it's probably going to be a very short for the 10, but that's one that's really so incredible. And well, before we started, let me show you the cartridge. It's Recca Summer Carnival 92, and this is actually a game that has been programmed or created or whatever for a special event, and that what something we call it now esport. People come together and play against each other. Has been done in 92 already, and for this special event this game has been created, and it is actually quite simple. It has actually no real end, so you play until you lost all your lives, and you reach a certain amount of points. But if you went through the game once, so it has some sort of level structure indeed, then it changes difficulty and all that stuff. And you can add some hacks at the beginning to enable this certain mode, then something like this. But actually this is just some sort of a score attack, high score attempt game, and just let it run for a while. It is really incredible what's going on the screen here. So it is really amazing how they were able to utilize so many objects on the screen. And the game has really a certain complexity because you have several power-ups with several levels of power-ups. And you have actually a front weapon power-up and a rear weapon power-up. And you can combine them however you like. And you do so by picking the right power-up options on the screen. And the interesting thing is that you keep collecting this until you die, obviously. And if you pick up and power up, which isn't active right now, it still keeps it power up level. So if you have collected, let's say, 3 items of certain whatever front weapon, and then you switch on to another one, and you switch back to the first one, then you still have this level of the power up, and therefore you can really use this strategically and use the right weapon at the right moment of time. And as you can see, those bluish items, they keep changing the letter on it, and I think the reddish ones are for the rear weapon. And it has incredible speed, it has an incredible soundtrack, and it keeps going on, and it is actually so insane. And yeah, let's jump into the normal game. I promise you I'm not going to make that much progress with it, but it is actually really, really amazing. And the cool thing is that if you stop shooting, you build some sort of a ball of energy in front of you, and this is acting as kind of a shield, which helps you to go through certain sections of the game. But it is not shielding you against everything, so there are just a certain type of, let's say, attacks you can dodge with it, but certain things you really have to avoid. And I have to remember that I have to press the B button as well to fire the rear weapon. And indeed it has some, the game utilizes some certain techniques, like we are going to see quite soon, if you're going to manage to go through this one. Well, it's actually working well. Let's build up the shield. So we can withstand the balls, but we cannot withstand the laser beams. So we have to stay out of it, and I have to release the fire button a little bit earlier. I think now I lost all my power-ups, but well. Yeah, we made it through the first stage boss. And here we can see this is another mind-blowing effect on the NES. They have to use a lot of tricks to get this background wobble like this. So actually the NES is technically not capable of doing this. So they really have to change the part sets per scan line to get this kind of zoom and wobble effect. And this is actually really just so amazing that it is quite often a little bit hard to focus on the game itself. And I have to admit I have actually no time to check which sort of power-up I'm actually collecting. I'm just getting what I can get. And I've read a couple of how-tos or game guides or something like this, and they all sort of mention that you have to stick to a certain set of weapons. And I have to admit, I'm absolutely not able to do so. And now I died already. Because those guys are hitting me, okay. So I have no idea how to survive this. Game over. Yep, and now we got a score, and then probably the next guy is going to try the same thing. And it's actually very same for the other game modes, just that here one thing I forgot to mention is that with the select button you can select the speed of the game. So if you look at the bottom left hand corner, there's a speedometer, so to say, and you can adjust the speed of this game, and it makes it a little bit easier to play if you pay attention to what's going on the screen. But it takes longer to finish the game, and I think score-wise this wasn't really a beneficial option if you play it as a competitive player. But if you play it as somebody who just wants to survive, that's probably a good idea to slow down a little bit. Not saying that it is too helpful, but well. Yeah, and after you have built up this huge energy ball in front of you, if you hit the fire button, then it is getting released into some sort of huge, well, let's call it nuke or something like this. So I think it's about time to get this finished here. It's still alive. Well, it doesn't want to die, so don't want to die, whatever. But it didn't felt so hard the first time, so I'm a bit surprised, I have to admit. Keeps flashing, but still withstanding. Well, that's strange, isn't it? Maybe because we have adjusted speed, everything takes a little bit longer. No, okay, eventually. So I bet that this game is definitely nothing for photosensitive people. Cause a lot of problems, I think. But well, compared to Crisis Force, I have to say it has less vertical motion, and therefore it isn't making me as dizzy as the other one. But well, it is still very, very busy. Oh, got to use my rear weapon. And I died. Ah. Ah, come on. Ah. Ah, it's so tricky to stay in the middle. That's so hard. Game over. Well, yeah, I think that's actually really enough for today. I hope it has been some sort of enjoyable for you as well. I really have to admit I'm really a bit dizzy now from all this scrolling and flashing and all those moving objects on the screen. That's really a bit hard for Friday night. So I might try to practice this a little bit when I'm not as tired as I'm right now. And yep. So thanks a lot for joining. It has been a pleasure to share this time with you. Very enjoyable to have a little chit chat here on this Friday night, late afternoon, whatever you want to call this. And yep, let's see what's going on the next time. I hope the weather is going back to some sort of a normal state more or less soon, so that I'm able to work on some other projects. If it is warm as it is right now, it is not very enjoyable to do some soldering or something like this. And yeah, so as I said, thanks a lot for joining, and well, keep watching, keep visiting my channels, and follow me on Twitter as much as you like. There, I'm more up to date than here. And then, yeah, have a nice weekend to all you guys, and see you the next time. Bye bye.